2005 was 20 years ago now. Do you feel old yet?
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Once more unto the bridge, dear friends.
Again and again until we're both dead.
There's only like 12 stories. They change around little details, but they're all pretty much the same.
Deja vu. Something very familiar about it.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, Movie Reviews Connections in Mind. Well, here we are in the first few days of 2025. Does it just feel like a new year to you? Have you just gotten up and gone and embraced new challenges? Or are you just already tired of it and just clinging to your Christmas decorations and hoping you don't have to take them down for another 5 months or whatever? Whatever it is, I'm glad you made it this far. Welcome to 2025. Now let's take a look back at 20 years ago now, 2005, a year in film which, may not have been as spectacular as some other years, but it has a certain significance to me and to this channel because 2005 was the year, rather the latter half of 2005, when in middle school, our computer class decided to start a podcast. I don't know if it was actually circulated out there. I think it was more just, a class activity, and it's more kind of a variety hour thing. But my contribution to our class podcast was Cody's Mad Movie Reviews, and I don't recall us doing more than a couple episodes, and the original recordings are long since gone. I don't know if I could ever find those again. I would have to go back to the school, which they probably deleted it. But important to this video in particular, two of those movies were released in 2005, and they were very meaningful to me. They got my thought process going into, I want to talk about movies, and this is a way to do it. And while it was a short-lived project, it did spark the seed, or plant the seed, rather, that would eventually result in this channel. So that's, a certain significance to me, and there's some movies in here that are of special significance to me as well. I can't talk about every movie that was released in 2005, obviously, but these are just a list of films that I just kind of want to talk about, and let's have a good time looking back on the year that was 2005 in movies. And I'll be going by release dates here. So first up that I want to talk about is Robots, which released March 11th. Don't have a whole ton to talk about on this one, only because I missed it in theaters. The only time I ever actually saw it was in high school. For whatever reason, my Spanish class we had a substitute, and they just decided, you know what, I'm not going to talk very much about this, and we're just going to put on a movie for our 45-minute time. And they decided to put on Robots, and that was the first time I saw Robots. That was also the last time I saw Robots. I have not sought out that movie again to see how it ends. Next up, releasing on April 29th, is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is probably my introduction to the concept that a movie adaptation can be a far cry of an adaptation from the book's source material. Now, I'd gone back and reread The Lord of the Rings, after seeing the movies. I hadn't read the books prior to the movies, but I had, thankfully, Lord of the Rings followed mostly a fairly faithful adaptation to the books. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, on the other hand, after this, I picked up the novel, the first book from Barnes and Noble. It had this movie poster, so it's like, oh, it's got the same movie poster. It's got to be the exact same as the movie. Well, no, but it's still a really enjoyable movie, and it is kind of a shame they never did get a sequel to it. Next up, which also came out on April 29th, was Triple X State of the Union. not a whole ton to talk about this. I, saw Triple X later, only a few years ago, honestly, and then went to see Triple X State of the Union. Not as good as Triple X, honestly. You got rid of Vin Diesel. What's the point? The only reason I even think about this movie anymore is that, being a car lover, this features the, I believe, 2004 Shelby Cobra concept car in this. And really, for me, that's the only reason to remember this movie. Next up, releasing on May 6th, 2005, was Kingdom of Heaven. Again, didn't see this until much later in life, but I highly recommend, if you've never seen this movie, checking out the director's cut of it, because there is a lot that got cut out for the theatrical release. It is a longer product. I believe it's over 3 hours, the director's cut. 190 minutes. So it is long, but it is well worth it, in my opinion. So Kingdom of Heaven, definitely check it out if you haven't. Next up is, again, one of when I remember my Gigapeas and a Gigapod, the podcast that we did in middle school. One of the two movies that I distinctly remember reviewing is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Probably, I think it goes out, a lot of people are pretty much in agreement that Revenge of the Sith is probably the best of the prequels, although, for my money, I still contend that Phantom Menace is a pretty darn decent movie in its own right, especially given context of what the Star Wars franchise would go on to. But again, that's my hot take. I understand I'm probably in the minority on that. But yeah, overall, I grew up on the prequels, and Revenge of the Sith is probably the best of those prequels. Long tortured, Darth Vader going no, notwithstanding. Next up, coming out on May 27th, was Madagascar. Madagascar, fun kids movie. I enjoy it. The sequels, less so. I've only seen the second one once. I don't think I've seen the third one at all. Or maybe I did on a plane at some point. I definitely haven't seen the Penguins spinoff. But, for what it is, Madagascar, it's a fun time for that. Next up came out June 15th, 2005, is Batman Begins. Yes, the first movie in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Everyone loves to gush over the Dark Knight and how amazing it is, and very much worthy of that praise. But for my money, I personally think if I'm going to rewatch one of the Dark Knight trilogy, I'm much more likely to pop in Batman Begins than The Dark Knight, but that's just me. And it's also fun. We have one of the big novelty cups, or just the regular 24-ounce soda cups with Batman Begins on it that we keep that I kept in the laundry room for many, many years. So that's a fun little tidbit there. Next up on June 22nd was Herbie Fully Loaded. This is the only Herbie movie that I've ever seen, and I have a sneaking suspicion there are probably better Herbie movies out there, but for what it was fine. It was Disney fare. Lindsay Lohan before, in her quote-unquote prime, I guess. So there's that. Next up is a movie that came out July 8th, 2005, and that is the first Fantastic Four movie. The Tim Story feature, where we got, Chris Evans as the Human Torch, who would later go on to be a punchline in Deadpool Wolverine. I contend, Rise of the Silver Surfer, maybe not quite as good, but first Fantastic Four movie, I contend, is still a fairly solid, let's say 2000s era superhero movie. Maybe not the greatness of Spider-Man 2 or, X2 or anything, but I think it stands on its own really well, and this is the reason why, but I recognize it can be improved. This is also the reason why I went into Four Stick, the 2015 Fantastic Four movie, wanting it to be good, and being so let down with that. But enough of that. Next up on July 22nd, 2005 is The Island with Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson. I believe it's based on a short story, but based being the operative word, it has basically nothing to do with the short story. Good movie, in my opinion. Michael Bay, probably one of his more restrained movies that he's ever done. There is definitely action and explosions, but compared to a lot of his other movies, this is definitely on the lighter side of that. But, still great time, I think. Definitely worth checking out if you have not seen this. And, again, remember when I said Gigapeas and Gigapod, two movies in particular that I distinctly remember reviewing. Revenge of the Sith was one, and this is the other one coming out July 22nd, Stealth. Stealth is, I saw this on my birthday that year, even though this was, I think, a couple weeks released by that point. I recognize this is basically a Top Gun ripoff and not quite as good, but I don't care. This is the epitome of a guilty pleasure movie for me. I did a review of this, a full review of this movie several years ago. You can check it out if you want. It's probably not one of my better videos, but I highly recommend checking this out if you haven't. This is, what more can I say that beyond the fact that this might not be the best movie? I don't care. I love the hell out of this, and if I'm just looking for a good time, this is candy to me. This is one of my faves, and it was a fun time trying to review this in 12-year-old me or 12-year-old me reviewing this for school. I kind of wish I had saved the audio file for that just to hear my take on it. I'm not sure. I wonder if that would have changed as the years gone by. So, Stealth, definitely, probably one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this video after I did the 2004 video last year. So, there's that. Next up, coming out September 16th, 2005, is Lord of War. Again, came to this movie much later in life. I think I picked up this copy at a thrift store. Solid movie. Nicolas Cage doing his own thing, and maybe not as crazy Tom Cage or Nicolas Cage, but solid, decent movie. It's a good time, and especially the opening, the credit sequence is probably one of the best opening credit sequences out there in filmdom. So it's worth checking out just for that, and then you got a decent movie to go along with it. So there's that. Next up is releasing on September 23rd is Corpse Bride. I've only seen this a couple times, and it's decent. It's Tim Burton. It's what Hot Topic derives most of its look and income from, honestly, or at least it did in around the time. You've gotten other movies. Now Hot Topic is probably primarily Wednesday Fair, which is also Tim Burton, but whatever, they go with the times. But for a while there, Corpse Bride was the thing. You couldn't walk by a Hot Topic in the mall without seeing something Corpse Bride related in the window. So there's that. Releasing September 30th, 2005, is Serenity, the movie continuation / conclusion to Firefly. Didn't see this in theaters. I only saw Firefly for the first time probably almost a decade ago now, but then came Serenity. It's a decent enough movie. I don't know how rewarding it is if you haven't seen the Firefly series, but On its own, if you have seen the Firefly series, it is a solid enough conclusion. It does give us closure to some of the storylines, although Joss Whedon doing his Joss Whedon-y things, and, film-wise, not other things, although I haven't heard any stories about the making of Serenity regarding that. But let's move on from that thing. Now let's get into October 7th, 2005, brought us, it's not on this collection, it's so Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. We just got a new feature-length Wallace and Gromit movie on Netflix, Vengeance Most Foul, and, well, that's also a cute movie. I have the same problem with that movie as I did with Curse of the Were-Rabbit, in that it's fine, but, these are the 4 shorts that they did. And what's good in a half-hour short film, when you stretch it out to 90 minutes, it does start to get old. And I felt that when I saw Curse of the Were-Rabbit. It's fine, but it does start to wear on you as the runtime goes on. So there's that. Next up is on November 4th, 2005, Good Night and Good Luck. Didn't see this in theaters, saw this in high school, actually. It's a great history for a history class, talking about the McCarthy era and journalistic ethics in the face of political oppression. I'm sure that's not being discussed in this day and age at all. So it's a fun thing to look into. The story of Edward R. Murrow and his butting heads with Senator McCarthy in the 50s. For history class, it's worth seeing, and maybe you'll see it today, and you might weep or whatever, at the state of the world. Who knows? But definitely worth checking out if you have not seen it. Next up, released on November 11th, 2005, Zathura, the quote-unquote follow-up to Jumanji. It's a okay movie. I wasn't really into it, and if you're fun, in the board game comes to life genre, I think it was okay in its time, but I think it's been supplanted by the newer Jumanji movies. Now, how many people play board games anymore, or how many? Or let me put it this way: how many people say board games are in the popular lexicon anymore? Not as much as they were in the late 90s, early 2000s. Now it's video games, which is why they updated it to video games for the new Jumanji movies. So there's that. And next up, in November 18th, 2005, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So this is the movie. It was this year. It was in 2005, actually, that I started getting into the Harry Potter books. I had seen the previous 3 Harry Potter movies, but I hadn't read any of the books, interestingly enough, until it wasn't in response to Goblet of Fire, the movie coming out. I believe it was 2005, that the Order of the Phoenix book was about to come out, and no, it wasn't Order of the Phoenix, it was Half-Blood Prince that was coming out, and I was racing to, I think I started reading the books maybe like a month or so before Half-Blood Prince came out, and I was halfway through Order of the Phoenix when the deadline hit, and the Half-Blood Prince book came out, and everyone who had gotten it at midnight were, biting their lip, trying to oh, don't spoil the book, don't spoil it, but I know how it ends, and having to suffer through that for, a couple weeks more until I got to read the Half-Blood Prince, once the 30-book copies from the library had started slowly filtering it in, and, I was probably, number 85 on the hold list before I finally got a hold of it. So that was fun. But as far as the movie of Goblet of Fire goes, probably one of the better of the Harry Potter movies. Not my favorite. I still think really the first and second ones probably hold the most sentimental value to me, probably because I've watched them younger. But the best for me of the franchise is still probably Prisoner of Azkaban. But Goblet of Fire, really respectable in my opinion. And that leads us to the final movie I want to talk about in 2005, releasing December 9th, and that is The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. This coming from someone who grew up with the BBC versions of the Chronicles of Narnia that were released in the late 80s, and those are worth checking out if you've never seen them, just for the BBC cheapness of them. But that is the context I had going into Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and knowing that, it's still a pretty solid adaptation of the book. They definitely did action it up a bit. I'd say the BBC version was the final battle was probably more book accurate, given and it also fit with their BBC budgets. But you get a bigger budget, you're going to have a much larger battle, and they made the use out of it, and it looked pretty darn good. And Liam Neeson as Aslan, not the same as, I forget the name of the guy who voiced Aslan in the BBC series, but still pretty respectable Aslan, and Tilda Swinton as the White Witch, great in that performance as well. I wish they kept up that quality with the next two movies, but what a way to start a franchise, in my opinion. So, again, that's not all the movies that came out in 2005. Those are the ones I wanted to talk about. And I hope we had fun going through this list and reliving memories. What did you think of this list? Did I leave a movie off that you would love to hear about? What is your favorite movie from 2005? And really, what's your favorite 2005 memory? Or if you can place a memory specifically to 2005, I'd love to hear them. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get, and I hope you have a great 2025. For my part, you can call it a New Year's resolution. I'm just, trying something different. I am now on Letterboxd, so if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, you can keep track of things that I watch, and I might review some things that I know do a video for. So look for if you want to follow me there. Cool. I'd love to see you there too. So look for me there, and look for me here as more videos are coming up soon. Again, thank you so much for watching. But just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.